Chapter 24 of The Mystery of the Downs by John Watson and Arthur J. Rees. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Tony Oliva. Chapter 24. As the car swept around the deserted seafront and through the scattered outskirts of the town, Crewe gradually increased the going, till by the time Staveley was left behind and the cliff road stretched in front of them, his powerful car was driving along at top speed. The night was not dark for the time of year. The windings of the road were visible some distance ahead. From the cliffs the rollers of the incoming tide could be seen breaking into white froth on the rocks below. It has occurred to me that for a man who was afraid of a German invasion, old Lumsden selected a very bad hiding place for his money, said Marsland. He could not have known the reputation the German soldiers made for themselves in stealing French clocks in the War of 1870. Perhaps not, replied Crewe, but I do not think he intended to leave the money in the clock when the Germans came. If he fled from the farm he would have taken it with him. His object in hiding it in the clock was to have it constantly under his eye. The car mounted the hill to the cutting through the cliff road near their destination, and as the road dipped downwards, Crewe slackened the pace. Both of them were looking across towards the farm on the left. As it came into view, Crewe exclaimed to his companion, "Did you see that?" "A light," said Marsland excitedly. "It is gone now. It was probably a match. There must be someone there. I wonder who it could be." "Perhaps it is Gillett. We will soon see." "No, we will drive past. It may be someone who wants to escape being seen. We will run the car off the road a little way down past the farm, then extinguish the lights and make our way back." He increased the pace of the car so that if there was any one at the farm it would appear that the car was going to Ashlingsea. They both kept their eyes on the house as the car sped past, but there was no repetition of the flash of light they had seen. Less than half a mile away, Crewe shut off the engine and carefully ran the car off the road on to a grassy path. He extinguished the lights and jumped out of the car. He took an electric torch from his overcoat pocket, and after turning it on to see if it was in order, he set off in the direction of the farm. "We will not keep to the road, as there may be someone on the watch," he said. "Follow me. I know my way across the fields." He clambered over the gate of a field and set off at a run, with Marsland following him closely. He led the way over ditches and across hedges and fences until they reached the meadow at the side of the farm. Before climbing the low brick wall, Crewe waited for Marsland. "You watch the front of the house while I go to the back. If you see anyone, challenge him in a loud voice so that I can hear you, and I'll come to your assistance. If I want you, I'll call out." They climbed the wall and dropped noiselessly on to the grass. Crewe waited until Marsland had taken up his station behind a plum tree in the garden, then crept towards the kitchen door. He stood outside the door listening intently for a few minutes, but as he heard no sound, he selected the right key from the bunch he had borrowed from Gillett and turned the lock. He waited to see if the sound of the turning lock had alarmed anyone inside the house. Slowly he turned the handle, opened the door, and stepped noiselessly into the kitchen. A few minutes later Marsland heard him approaching him from the back of the house. "Come quickly," he said. "Someone has been before us and found the money, but he is coming back again." Marsland silently followed Crewe along the side of the house to the kitchen and into the room where the great grandfather clock stood. Crewe flashed the torch on it, and Marsland started back with a cry of astonishment. The wooden case had been smashed beyond repair. It had been hacked and splintered with a heavy weapon which had not only battered in the front of the case, but smashed the back as well. Pieces of the wood had been pulled off and flung about the room. About the bottom of the broken case several sovereigns were lying. "The treasure!" he cried. "It was here then. Has he got away with it?" "Most of it, but not all of it," said Crewe. "See here." He knelt down by the case, plunged in his hand, and drew forth a canvas bag which clinked as he held it up. "This is the sort of bag that banks use for holding sovereigns. The banks put 1,000 sovereigns into each bag and seal it up, so as to render it unnecessary to count the coins every time the bags are handled. There are 4 of these bags still here." "But where are they hidden?" asked Marsland in amazement. "Where did you find this one? Wasn't it lying on the floor when you came in?" "The old man devised a skilful hiding place," said Crewe. "He fitted the case with a false back and stowed his treasure in between. Look here." He flashed the light around the interior of the case, and Marsland, looking closely, saw that the back of it, which had been smashed, was a false one, skilfully let in about 3 inches in front of the real back. In the space between the 2 backs, the eccentric old owner of Cliff Farm had concealed his treasure as he had obtained it from the bank. "It is an ingenious hiding place," said Crewe. "He laid the clock on its face, took off the back, fitted his false slide into a groove, stacked in his money bags, replaced the proper back, and then restored the clock to its original position. You see, he was careful to make the space between the false and the real backs so narrow that there was very little possibility of the hiding place being discovered by chance or suspicion. Even the man who has forestalled us with the solution of the cryptogram was unable to discover the treasure until he had recourse to the clumsy method of smashing up the clock. This is what he used to do it." Crewe pointed to an axe lying near. "With that he smashed the case, found the treasure, and carried off what he could. He would be able to carry 4 of these bags at a time, 2 in each hand. He has left these 4 for another trip. How many trips he has already made I do not know, but probably more than one." "He may be back again at any moment," said Marsland, lowering his voice to a whisper. "Hadn't we better hide?" "He won't be back just yet," said Crewe confidently. "What makes you so certain of that?" "He was here when we saw the flash of light. That is less than half an hour ago. To walk from here with 4 of these bags to the cliff, down the path in the dark to the boat he has waiting for him, would take more than half an hour." "But what makes you think he has a boat? Why do you feel sure he has come by sea?" "Because that is the better way to come if he wanted to escape observation. If he came by road he would have brought a vehicle and would have taken the whole of the treasure away in a few minutes. But in a vehicle he might be met along the road by some one who knew him." "Have you any idea who it is?" asked Marsland. "Some one who has solved the cryptogram, or got it solved for him," said Crewe. "By making a tour of the second hand bookshops in London he probably got in touch with some one who has made a study of cryptograms, and in that way got it solved. There are some strange human types in these big second hand bookshops in London. Strange old men full of unexpected information in all sorts of subjects." "But how did he get a copy of the cryptogram? Could he have got possession of the copy I found on the stairs?" "I think so." "How?" "Miss Maynard gave it to him." "Miss Maynard!" echoed the young man. "How could she have got it? She left the house with me and did not come back. In fact, she was very much opposed to coming back when I suggested that we should do so in order to get it." "If she had it in her possession at the house, her opposition to your proposal to go back for it is quite reasonable." "I think you said that after you found the dead body upstairs she rushed downstairs and waited outside for you. She had ample time to go into the room and take the cryptogram from the table where you placed it. Doubtless her main thought was that its presence might implicate Brett in some way." "Then it is Brett who has taken this money and is carrying it down the cliff to the boat?" said Marsland excitedly. "Yes, probably Miss Maynard is down at the boat keeping guard over the bags as he brings them." "And you think he will come back here for the rest?" asked Marsland. Crewe noted the eagerness in the young man's voice. It seemed as if Marsland was excited by the thought of meeting Brett. "He is not likely to leave £4,000 behind unless he knows the place is being watched." "Let us go towards the cliffs and meet him," declared Marsland impatiently. "To think that I am to meet him face to face, and here of all places." "We might miss him in the dark, and he might get clean away." "Where shall we hide?" asked the young man, again sinking his voice to a whisper. "He may reach here any moment now." "He came in by the front door. The lock has not been injured, so apparently he has a key. You hide in the room on the left, just inside, close to the door. I will hide in the cupboard underneath the staircase. When he reaches the clock he cannot escape without passing us. Give him time to get the money, and as soon as he has the bags in his hands ready to start off, we will both spring out at him." Crewe watched Marsland enter the sitting room on the left, and then opened the door of the cupboard beneath the staircase and crouched down. The cupboard opened into the hall, and through the crack of the door Crewe was able to see into the room where the shattered clock was. The door of the room where Marsland was hidden also commanded a view of the interior of the room in which the clock stood. The stillness was so complete that Crewe could hear the watch in his pocket ticking off the ebbing moments. Once the distant yelp of a sheep dog reached him, then there was another long period of stillness. Twice his keen ear caught a faint creaking in the old house, but he knew they were but the mysterious night noises which are so common in all old houses, the querulous creakings and complaints of beams and joists which have seen many human generations come and go. But as the time dragged on without a sound to indicate that the thief was returning, Crewe found to his vexation that he had increasing difficulty in keeping his senses alert in that dark and muffled silence. The close and confined atmosphere of the cupboard, the lack of air, his cramped position, compelled an unconquerable drowsiness. Then he heard a sound which drove away his drowsiness, the sound of a key in a lock. He heard the door creak as it was pushed back, and then came steps advancing along the hall, stumbling along noisily, as though their owner thought that the need for precaution ceased when the front door was passed, that once inside the house he was safe and need not fear interruption. There was a scrape and a splutter, and a flickering flame in the hall. The thief had struck a match. Through the crack of the cupboard door Crewe watched the tiny blue flame grow larger, turn yellow, and burn steadily, and he could see the dim outline of a man's back, and a hand shielding the match showing transparent through the flame. The thief had struck his match with his face to the doorway. The outline of his other hand approached, and the light grew brighter. The intruder had lit a piece of candle. As it burnt up, the man turned towards the clock, and Crewe saw the face of Brett for the first time. His impression was of a pair of hunted, nervous eyes, roving restlessly in a livid waxen mask, a tense, sucked-in mouth. He saw no more. Apparently Marsland had been too excited to wait until the thief had the bags in his hands, for Brett started as though he heard a movement, and quickly extinguished his candle. There was a moment of intense silence, and then Crewe heard Marsland's voice raised in a strange, high-pitched scream that made it seem unfamiliar. "Powell, you traitor and murderer! I am Marsland, Captain Marsland. I will kill you without sending you to trial." Crewe had thrown open the door of the cupboard at the first sound of the voice, but before he could get to his feet there was the deafening sound of a revolver shot, followed by the rush of feet and the fall of a body. The bullet had missed the thief, and Marsland, advancing on him after firing, had been knocked over by Brett's rush for the door. Before Crewe could reach him across Marsland's prostrate form, Brett had thrown open the door and was outside the house. Crewe dashed for the door in pursuit. He caught a glimpse of a fleeing figure, bent nearly double to shield himself from another shot, running down the gravel path at amazing speed. Then the figure was swallowed up in the night. Crewe followed, without waiting to find out how Marsland had fared. He failed to catch another glimpse of Brett, but had no doubt he would make for the path down the cliff about a quarter of a mile away. Crewe, who had been a long-distance runner at school, was in excellent training, knew that he would last the distance better than Brett. He caught sight of Brett again before half the distance between the downs and the cliffs had been covered. A fantastic flying figure bobbing into view against the skyline for an instant as he ran across the crest of a little hill and as suddenly disappeared again. But that brief glimpse of the fugitive revealed to Crewe that Brett had mistaken his course. He was running too much to the right. Crewe ran on steadily in a straight line for the path. When Brett discovered that he had run too wide, he would have to curve back, taking almost a semicircular course before he reached the beginning of the path. Crewe's course was the shorter, the cord to Brett's bow, and would bring him to the path before Brett could possibly reach it. The detective slackened pace slightly and cast a glance over his shoulder to see if Marsland was following him, but he could not see him. Crewe reached the hidden path and waited, listening, by the bushes which concealed the entrance. Soon his quick ear caught the pad of footsteps, and as they drew nearer they were accompanied by the quick breathing of a man running hard. Then the form of Brett loomed up, running straight for the path. Crewe sprang at him as he came close, but the runner saw his danger in time to fling himself sideways. He was on his feet again in an instant, and made away along the edge of the cliff, bounding along with great jumps among the rocks from point to point and rock to rock. Crewe drew so close that he could hear Brett's panting breath as he ran, but each time Brett, with a desperate spurt, put a few more yards between them again. Once he staggered and seemed about to fall, but he sprang up again and ran with the speed of a hare. They had reached the rocky headland which jutted into the sea 100 yards or more by the dangerous turn of the cliff road. Crewe slackened his pace to call out a warning to the man he was pursuing. "Look out, or you will fall over the cliff!" he cried. Brett paused, turned irresolutely, and then began slowly to retrace his steps. But as he did so, a figure appeared suddenly out of the gloom and dashed past Crewe towards him. "You dog, I have you!" screamed Marsland. "You cannot get away from me again." "Look out, Marsland!" cried Crewe, springing after him. "You will both go over." Marsland ran on without heeding, cursing savagely at the hunted man. Brett had fled away again at the sound of his voice, and Crewe could hear his gasping breath as he stumbled over the slippery rocks. The two figures appeared clearly against the skyline for a moment as they raced towards the end of the headland. Then the foremost disappeared over the cliff with a scream. Brett, endeavouring to double in his tracks at the edge of the headland, had slipped and gone over. Marsland was standing on the edge of the cliff, peering down into the sea mist which veiled the water below. When Crewe reached his side, Crewe drew him back. "Come away, if you don't want to follow him," he said. "We shall have to get the police out to look for his body, but perhaps the sea will carry it away." End of chapter 24.